The crystal towers of Zerion Prime reached toward the stars like frozen lightning. Each tower held the wealth of 1,000 conquered worlds. The Zephyrian star empire stretched across the galaxy like a vast web, and Emperor Vexathalan sat at its center like a spider made of living diamond. The Emperor's body was tall and thin, carved from blue crystal that caught the light of 3 suns. His eyes were black holes in his face, empty spaces that seemed to drink in everything around them. When he moved, his joints made soft, chiming sounds like distant bells. Today, like every day for the past 3,000 years, reports flowed. To his throne room, ships had conquered new systems, slaves worked harder in the mines, tribute arrived from distant worlds, the empire grew stronger while other species grew weaker. "Your Greatness," said General Kexmore, bowing low before the crystal throne. "The survey fleets have found 17 new worlds this cycle. 15 contain useful resources. 2 have primitive life forms." Emperor Vexathalan barely looked up from his golden datapad. "Harvest the resources. Clear the primitives if they interfere." "Yes, Your Greatness. There is one small matter. The survey ship Crystal Wind discovered a new species on the galaxy's edge. They call themselves humans." The Emperor's black eyes shifted toward the general. In the Empire, new species meant either new slaves or new problems. Usually slaves. "Show me." General Kexmore activated a hologram projector. Images filled the air above the throne. A blue and green world spinning slowly in space. Cities made of metal and glass. Ships that moved through space using crude chemical rockets. "They have only just begun to explore beyond their home system," General Kexmore explained. "Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. Their weapons are primitive. They number only in the billions across a few dozen worlds." Emperor Vexathalan studied the images. The humans looked soft and weak. Their bodies had no armor, no natural weapons, no special abilities. They built with simple materials and flew in slow ships. "What resources do their worlds contain?" the Emperor asked. "Nothing special, Your Greatness. Common metals, some water, basic elements. Nothing we cannot find in abundance elsewhere." The Emperor waved his hand, and the hologram disappeared. "File them with the other irrelevant species. Focus on systems with actual value." General Kexmore bowed again. "Of course, Your Greatness, I will inform the survey fleet commanders." Far across the galaxy, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the human research ship Endeavor. Through the viewing window, she could see strange ships approaching. They were beautiful and terrible, made of what looked like living crystal that pulsed with inner light. "First contact protocols are active," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Park. "I'm sending out friendship signals in 17 different mathematical languages." Sarah felt her heart beating fast. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. Contact with another intelligent species. She had studied alien contact. Procedures her entire career. They would exchange knowledge, share cultures, maybe even become friends. "Captain," said Lieutenant Park, his voice excited. "I'm getting a response signal. It's beautiful, like music made of light." The alien. Ships moved closer. They were graceful, flowing through space like fish through water. Each ship was unique, as if grown rather than built. Sarah could see lights moving inside them like thoughts made visible. "Open a channel," Sarah ordered. "All frequencies. Let's make history." She stepped forward and spoke clearly into the communication system. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human vessel Endeavor. We come in peace. We offer friendship and the sharing of knowledge between our peoples." The response came immediately, not in words, but in action. The lead alien ship fired a beam of pure energy. The Endeavor exploded in a ball of white fire. Captain Chen, her crew, and humanity's first attempt at galactic friendship died in less than a second. On the bridge of the Zephyrian ship Crystal Wind, Commander Zexathar watched the primitive vessel burn. The creatures inside had been trying to communicate, but communication was not the Zephyrian way with inferior species. "Report to Imperial Command," Commander Zexathar ordered his crew. "Primitive species eliminated from System 847 Delta, beginning mineral survey of available worlds." The Zephyrian fleet moved through the human star system like a plague. They found 3 small colonies on asteroids and 2 research stations orbiting distant planets. Each one tried to communicate. Each one was destroyed without hesitation. The Zephyrians had perfected the art of conquest over 10,000 years. They had learned that showing mercy to primitive species only led to problems later. Better to remove them quickly and completely. Commander Zexathar watched his ships destroy the last human outpost in the system. The primitives had died easily, as expected. Their ships were slow and their weapons were useless against Zephyrian. "Crystal armor." "Sir," reported his sensor officer, "long-range scans show approximately 50 more systems with this species' energy signatures. Should we pursue?" Commander Zexathar considered this. The humans were spread across many worlds, but they were still primitives. Eliminating them all would take time and resources that could be better used elsewhere. "Mark their systems for future cleansing operations," he decided. "We will return when convenient. They are not going anywhere." Back on Zerion Prime, Emperor Vexthalan received the report about the eliminated primitives without interest. Thousands of species had been destroyed in the Empire's expansion. The humans were just another entry in a very long list. He was more concerned with reports from the Coreward sectors, where the wealthy Mantis Confederation was building new defense platforms. The Mantis had technology worth stealing and worlds worth taking. They were a real challenge, unlike primitive humans with their chemical rockets and metal ships. "General Kexmore," the Emperor called. "Increase pressure on the Mantis borders. I want their shield technology by year's end." "Yes, Your Greatness. What about the human cleansing operations?" Emperor Vexthalan barely paused in reading his reports. "Low priority. Send a few ships when nothing else requires attention. They will still be there whenever we decide to finish them." The Emperor returned to more important matters. Trade negotiations with the Silicon Lords, military campaigns against the Phoenix Republic, the endless administration of an empire that spanned 40,000 star systems. He never thought about the humans again, but in the cold space between the stars, automated human probes had been watching. They had recorded everything: the destruction of the Endeavor, the elimination of the colonies, the casual cruelty of a species that destroyed others without even considering them worth talking to. The probes sent their data racing back toward Earth at the speed of light. The message was simple and clear. Humanity had met the galaxy, and the galaxy had tried to kill them all. On Earth, in the deep bunkers beneath the World Government Complex, emergency alarms began to sound. Screens showed the death of Captain Chen and her crew, the destruction of 3 colonies, the approach of alien ships that killed without warning or mercy. President Martinez stared at the images with horror. How long before they reach Earth? At their current speed, approximately 18 months, reported General Thompson. But sir, they might not come directly here. Our probes show they've moved on to attack other targets. President Martinez nodded slowly. They're not coming to conquer us. They're coming to exterminate us. They see us as pests to be eliminated when convenient. What are your orders, sir? President Martinez looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Scientists, generals, politicians, all united now by the knowledge that their species faced extinction. "Activate Protocol Lazarus," he said quietly. "All of it. Every contingency we've ever planned for species survival." "Sir, Protocol Lazarus was theoretical. We've never tested it on this scale." "Then we're about to find out if humanity is as clever as we think we are," President Martinez replied. "Because if we're not, we're all going to die." Dr. Sarah Chen floated in the observation pod of Research Station Kepler. watching the stars through the transparent aluminum dome. She was named after the captain who died in first contact, and she carried that weight every day. Her job was to study alien life forms, but now alien life forms were studying how to kill humans. The station orbited a gas giant in the Proxima system, far from Earth, but close enough to monitor the approach routes the Zephyrians might use. For 3 months, Sarah and her team had been watching and waiting. "Contact," announced Dr. Patel from his sensor station. "Multiple ships bearing 27 Mark IV. "They're big, Sarah. Bigger than anything we've seen before." Sarah pulled herself to the main viewing station. Through the telescopes, she could see them coming. Crystal ships that caught the light of distant stars and threw it back in rainbow patterns. Beautiful and deadly. "How many?" she asked. 15 capital ships, maybe 50 smaller escorts. "They're not hurrying, Sarah. They're just cruising through our space like they own it." Sarah felt cold fear in her stomach. The Zephyrians were coming to finish what they started, not just to destroy human military forces, but to eliminate every human colony they could find. "Dr. Rodriguez, what's the status on Colony 7? Her communications officer looked up from his console with worried eyes. "Still evacuating. They need another 6 hours to get everyone off planet." "They don't have 6 hours." Sarah watched the alien fleet moving steadily toward the human colony. "Send the warning now. Tell them to run." "Sarah, if we broadcast a warning, the aliens will detect our signal. They'll know we're here." Sarah looked around at her team. Scientists and researchers who had volunteered to stay behind and watch the enemy. They all knew this might be a one-way mission. "Send it anyway. Those are 8,000 people down there. Families, children." Dr. Rodriguez nodded and began transmitting. "Colony 7, this is Research Station Kepler. Enemy fleet approaching. Your position. Evacuate immediately. Repeat, evacuate immediately." The response came back quickly. "Kepler, this is Colony 7 Control. We copy your warning. Evacuation ships are launching now. Thank you for the heads up." Sarah watched through the telescopes as small ships began rising from the colony world. Transport vessels packed with civilians racing to escape before the Zephyrians arrived. Most of them made it. The alien fleet reached Colony 7 4 hours later. They didn't bother to check if anyone was left. They simply destroyed everything: the cities, the farms, the empty buildings, even the forests. They burned it all from orbit until nothing remained but smoking rock. "My God," whispered Dr. Patel. "They're not just killing us, they're erasing us." Sarah recorded everything. The systematic destruction, the casual cruelty, the way the aliens worked with the efficiency of people clearing weeds from a garden. "They've found us," Dr. Rodriguez reported. "I'm reading targeting sensors locked on our station." Sarah looked at her team one last time. Good people who had stayed to do their duty even knowing they would probably die for it. "Get the data burst ready," she ordered. "Everything we've recorded. Everything we've learned about their ships, their weapons, their tactics." "Ready to transmit, Sarah. Send it, full power, all frequencies. Make sure Earth gets this." The data burst shot out from Research Station Kepler at light speed, carrying everything humanity had learned about their enemies. Technical specifications, behavioral patterns, tactical analysis, information that might help their species survive. 3 seconds later, a Zephyrian energy beam turned the research station into expanding gas and metal fragments. The data burst, raced across space toward Earth, carrying Sarah Chen's final message. "They show no mercy. They see us as insects to be eliminated. Protocol Lazarus is our only hope." On Earth, President Martinez read Dr. Chen's report in the deep bunkers beneath Geneva. Around him, the leaders of humanity worked frantically to coordinate the largest evacuation in history. "How many ships do we have ready?" he asked General Thompson. 2,000 generation ships, another 500 deep space transports. "It's not enough, sir. We can't evacuate everyone." President Martinez nodded grimly. They had always known This day might come. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for the possibility that they might meet hostile aliens. But knowing something might happen was different from watching it actually happen. What about the volunteers? 12 million people have volunteered to stay behind and maintain the deception. They understand they probably won't survive. 12 million people willing to die so that the rest of humanity could escape. The thought made Martinez feel sick and proud at the same time. Protocol Lazarus was humanity's most desperate plan. If they ever faced extinction from a superior enemy, they would fake their own death. The entire species would disappear, leaving behind empty colonies and silent worlds. The enemy would think they had won, while humanity hid and grew strong in secret. The volunteer populations are taking their positions now, reported Dr. Kim from the Science Advisory Board. They'll maintain normal communication patterns for as long as possible. When the aliens arrive, they'll evacuate to hidden shelters and wait. What if the aliens scan for life signs? The shelters are deep underground and heavily shielded. If the volunteers stay quiet, they should be undetectable. Martinez hoped she was right. The success of Protocol Lazarus depended on making. The Zephyrians believe humanity was extinct or had fled beyond their reach. Status on the main evacuation? The generation ships are loading now. We're taking genetic samples, cultural archives, technical databases, everything we need to rebuild our civilization. The ships will rendezvous at Rally Point Omega in the void between galaxies. Rally Point Omega was empty space so far from any star that no alien species had ever bothered to explore it. Hidden in the cosmic dark, humanity would have time to grow and plan and prepare for their return. How long until we're ready to launch? 72 hours, sir. We're cutting it close, but we'll make it. Martinez turned to watch the main display screen, which showed the progress of human evacuation fleets around the galaxy. Green dots represented ships safely away. Red dots showed colonies still evacuating. Yellow dots marked colonies that had gone silent. Too many yellow dots. They're moving faster than we expected, General Thompson reported. Intelligence estimates they'll reach Earth in 4 days. Then we launch in 3 days, ready or not, Martinez decided. Send the final recall signal to all human forces. Anyone who isn't at an evacuation point in 60 hours gets left behind. It was a horrible choice, but Protocol Lazarus only worked if humanity disappeared completely. They couldn't leave behind any military forces or obvious survivors that might make the aliens suspicious. Around the solar system, human ships began powering down their transmitters. Space stations went dark. Military bases fell silent. To anyone watching from outside, it looked like human civilization was simply shutting down. On Mars, Commander Elena Vasquez supervised the loading of the last military personnel onto evacuation transports. She had volunteered to stay behind until the very end, making sure no one was abandoned. "That's the last transport, Commander," reported her aide. "Your ship is waiting." Elena looked back at the red planet one more time. Humanity had worked for 200 years to build cities under the Martian sky. Now they were leaving it all behind, hoping they would someday return to reclaim their worlds. "Upload the virus to all remaining systems," she ordered. The computer virus would make sure that any technology left behind would be useless to the aliens. When the Zephyrians arrived, they would find empty colonies and dead computers. No clues about where humanity had gone or how advanced they really were. "Virus uploaded, Commander. All systems will automatically purge in 12 hours. Elena boarded her ship and took one last look at Earth through the viewing port. The beautiful blue world that had given birth to humanity. They were leaving it in alien hands, but not forever. "Set course for Rally Point Omega," she ordered. "Take us home." The ship turned away from Earth and jumped into hyperspace, carrying Elena toward humanity's secret refuge in the dark between the stars. Behind them, Earth continued its normal radio broadcasts for a few more hours. Then, suddenly, all signals stopped. The blue world fell silent. When the Zephyrians arrived 3 days later, they found empty cities and dead space stations. No resistance, no desperate last stands, no trace of where billions of humans had gone. It looked like humanity had simply vanished into thin air. The void between galaxies was cold and empty and perfect. No stars shone here, no planets orbited in the darkness. This was the space that aliens never bothered to explore because there was nothing to find. That was exactly what humanity had counted. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the command ship Retribution, looking out at the largest fleet in human history. 2,000 generation ships floated in the darkness like sleeping giants. Each ship carried 1,000,000 people in suspended animation. Each ship was a complete human civilization waiting to wake up. "Report, Captain Torres," Elena said. "All ships have arrived safely at Rally Point Omega," Torres replied. "Total population, 2,400,000,000 souls. Genetic archives are secure. Cultural databases are intact. We saved them, Admiral." Elena nodded, but she felt no joy. They had saved humanity, but they had also lost their home. Earth was gone. Mars was gone. Every world their species had ever called home was now in alien hands. "What's the status on our intelligence network?" The volunteer observers are still in place on 17 former human worlds. They're hidden in deep bunkers and maintaining communication silence. So far, the aliens seem to believe we're extinct. That was good news. Protocol Lazarus depended on the Zephyrians thinking humanity was gone forever. If they suspected humans were still alive somewhere, they would search until they found the hidden fleet. "Wake up the senior staff," Elena ordered. "It's time to plan our return." Over the next few hours, humanity's best minds gathered in the conference room of the Retribution. Scientists, engineers, military commanders, and political leaders. They represented the survivors of a species that had been marked for extinction. "The question before us is simple," Elena began. "Do we stay hidden forever, or do we go back and make them pay?" Dr. Sarah Martinez, the fleet's chief scientist, spoke first. "Admiral, we're safe here. We can build a new civilization in the void. We can live peacefully without ever encountering the aliens again." "And let them keep our worlds?" asked General Chen. "Let them think they can exterminate entire species without consequences?" "We lost, General. They're stronger than us. Going back would be suicide." Elena listened to the debate that followed. Some people wanted to hide forever. Others wanted immediate revenge. Both sides had good arguments. "Dr. Patel," Elena said, interrupting the discussion, "what did your team learn from the sensor data Dr. Chen transmitted before she died?" The intelligence officer activated a holographic display. "The Zephyrians have several advantages over us. Their crystal technology is more advanced. Their ships are faster and more powerful. Their energy weapons are superior to anything we have." "So we can't win?" asked Dr. Martinez. "I didn't say that. The aliens have advantages, but they also have weaknesses. They're arrogant. They don't expect resistance from species they consider extinct. They follow predictable patterns in their military operations." Elena studied the tactical data. "What about their numbers?" "That's their biggest weakness, Admiral. The Zephyrian Empire controls 40,000 star systems, but they only have about 50 billion individuals total. They spread themselves thin across the galaxy. 50 billion aliens controlling 40,000 worlds?" Elena mused. "That's only about 1 million Zephyrians per star system." Less than that, actually. Most of their population lives on their core worlds. The frontier systems have much smaller populations. Elena looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you to consider something. The aliens tried to exterminate us because they thought we were weak and primitive. What if we came back stronger than they ever imagined? We have 2 billion people, Admiral. They have 50 billion. Numbers aren't everything, Dr. Martinez. We have something they don't have. We have a reason to fight that goes beyond conquest or territory. They took our homes. They murdered our families. They tried to erase us from existence." The room fell silent. Everyone remembered the recordings from Dr. Chen's research station. The casual way the aliens had destroyed human colonies. The complete lack of mercy or even curiosity about the species they were eliminating. "What are you proposing?" asked General Chen. "I'm proposing we spend the next 50 years getting ready. We study their technology until we understand it better than they do. We build weapons they've never seen before. We train every man, woman, and child in this fleet to be a soldier in the war that's coming. And then?" Elena's eyes were hard as winter steel. "And then we go home. Not to reconquer our worlds, not to negotiate for territory. We go home to finish what they started." The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. In the end, the vote was close but clear. Humanity would prepare for war. The work began immediately. The generation ships were converted into massive research and manufacturing facilities. Every piece of Zephyrian technology that had been salvaged was studied and reverse-engineered. Dr. Kim led the weapons research team. "We need to think differently than they do," she explained to her staff. "The aliens build for beauty and elegance. We need to build for one purpose only: killing Zephyrians as efficiently as possible." The breakthrough came 15 years into the exile. Dr. Patel's team discovered that Zephyrian crystal technology had a fatal flaw. The same crystalline structure that made their ships so beautiful also made them vulnerable to certain frequencies of energy. "It's like finding the exact note that shatters a wine glass," Dr. Patel explained to the Admiral. "Hit their ships with the right frequency, and their crystal hulls will tear themselves apart. Can we build weapons that use this frequency?" "Already working on it, Admiral. We'll call them resonance cannons." While the scientists worked on new weapons, the military planners studied Zephyrian tactics and strategy. They identified the Empire's communication networks, supply lines, and command structures. "The key is simultaneous attacks," General Chen explained. "The Empire depends on fast communication between star systems. If we can cut their communication network and attack multiple targets at once, they won't be able to coordinate a defense." Elena approved the strategy. When humanity returned, it would not be as refugees seeking to reclaim a few worlds. It would be as executioners coming to end an empire. The children born in exile grew up knowing only one purpose: preparing for the day they would return to human space. They studied Zephyrian language, culture, and psychology. They trained in combat techniques designed specifically for fighting crystal-bodied aliens. "Why do we have to fight them?" asked young Michael Chen during a history lesson. "Why can't we just find new worlds somewhere else?" His teacher, Commander Torres, showed him the recordings from the first contact. The casual destruction of human colonies, the complete indifference to human life. "Because they don't see us as people, Michael. They see us as pests to be eliminated. As long as they exist, no human will ever be safe." After 30 years in exile, humanity had grown and changed. The fleet now included over 3,000 ships. Every adult was trained for combat. Every child learned engineering and tactics along with reading and mathematics. Admiral Elena Vasquez was older now, her hair white and her face lined with years of planning and preparation. But her eyes still burned with the cold fire of vengeance. "Status report," she ordered during the daily command briefing. "All ships are ready for deployment," reported General Chen. "Weapons are loaded, troops are prepared, intelligence networks are active. What about the volunteers we left behind? Still maintaining observation posts on former human worlds. The aliens have never suspected they're there. According to their reports, the Zephyrians consider humanity completely extinct." Elena smiled grimly. "Good. Let them keep thinking that until the very last moment." "Admiral," asked Dr. Martinez, "are you sure about this? Once we start, there's no going back. This won't be a war for territory or resources. This will be genocide." Elena looked out at the fleet of ships floating in the void, ships full of humans who had grown up without ever seeing their home worlds, children who had been trained from birth to hate an enemy that thought they were already dead. Dr. Martinez, they made their choice 50 years ago when they decided to exterminate us. We're just going to return the favor. She turned to address the command staff. Send the activation. Signal to all ships. Begin the final countdown. In 72 hours, humanity goes home. Emperor Vex Thalan was reviewing trade reports when the first alarm sounded in his palace. The crystal chimes that announced emergencies had not rung in his throne room for over a century. No one dared attack the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. Your greatness! General Kexmore rushed into the throne room, his crystal body flashing with stress patterns. We have a problem. A very serious problem. The Emperor looked up from his datapad with annoyance. Speak clearly, General. What could possibly be serious enough to interrupt my morning review? The Outer Rim sectors are under attack, Your Greatness. Coordinated strikes against military installations across 17 star systems. Emperor Vex Thalan set down his pad. Attacks on multiple systems meant either a major rebellion or an invasion by another empire. Neither should have been possible without advance warning from his intelligence networks. Which species dares to attack us? The Mantis Confederation? The Silicon Lords? That's the problem, Your Greatness. We don't know who's attacking us. The strike forces appeared without warning and began destroying our installations immediately. No communications, no demands, no surrender offers. The Emperor felt the first flutter of concern in his crystal chest. Show me the tactical reports. General, Kexmore activated the holographic display system. Images filled the air above the throne room. Smoking ruins of Zephyrian bases, destroyed ships floating in space, crystal cities burning under alien weapons fire. The attackers are using some kind of energy weapon we've never seen before, the general explained. It targets our crystal technology specifically. Our ships are being torn apart from the inside. Emperor Vex Thalan studied the images with growing alarm. The destruction was complete and systematic. Whoever was attacking them knew exactly how to hurt Zephyrian forces most effectively. What do our intelligence reports tell us about the attackers? Very little, Your Greatness. The ships are unfamiliar design. Dark metal hulls with no decorative elements. They fight with precision, but show no interest in conquest. They destroy everything and then move on. Move on to where? That's what worries me, Your Greatness. They're not moving randomly. They're following a pattern, striking specific targets in a coordinated campaign. This isn't random piracy or rebellion. This is organized warfare. The Emperor stood up from his throne, his crystal body chiming with agitation. How many systems have been attacked? 47 so far, and the number is growing. Your Greatness, these attacks began simultaneously, across thousands of light-years of space. Whoever is doing this has a fleet larger than anything we've ever seen. The communication console at the base of the throne began flashing urgent signals. General Kexmore rushed to answer it. Report from the Third Fleet, he announced. Admiral, Zexcalar is engaging unknown enemy forces in the Altair system. He reports enemy ships are using tactics and weapons completely unknown to our military. Put me in direct communication with the Admiral, the Emperor ordered. The holographic display changed to show the bridge of a Zephyrian warship. Admiral, Zexcalar appeared, his crystal body flickering with damage patterns. Behind him, other officers worked frantically at their stations. Your Greatness, the Admiral said, bowing even as explosions shook his ship. The enemy is unlike anything we've encountered. They know our technology better than we do. They target our crystal matrices with surgical precision. What do they want, Admiral? What are their demands? They don't make demands, Your Greatness. They don't communicate at all. They simply appear, destroy everything, and move on. It's like they're trying to erase us from existence. The connection went dead as Admiral Zexcalar's ship exploded in a ball of crystal fragments and superheated gas. Emperor Vex Thalan stared at the empty holographic display in shock. He had just watched one of his best admirals die fighting an enemy that refused to even speak to them. General Kexmore, send a message to all Imperial forces. Full military alert. Recall all fleets to defend the core systems. Your Greatness, That will take time. Our ships are scattered across the Empire on routine patrols and occupation duties. Then send the message immediately and get me a complete analysis of these attacks. I want to know who we're fighting and what they want. Over the next 12 hours, the reports kept getting worse. The mysterious enemy was hitting Zephyrian installations across the entire galaxy simultaneously. Military bases, communication relays, supply depots, and administrative centers were being systematically destroyed. The pattern is becoming clear, reported Intelligence Director Vexa Solar. The enemy is targeting our command and control infrastructure. They're trying to blind us and cut our communication networks. Have we identified the attackers yet? Our analysis teams are working on it, Your Greatness. The ship designs are completely unknown, but there's something familiar about their tactical patterns. Emperor Vex Thalan felt ice forming in his crystal heart. Familiar how? The targeting priorities and attack sequences match theoretical strategies from our own military academy textbooks. Whoever is commanding these forces understands Zephyrian military doctrine better than most of our own officers. The Emperor thought about this disturbing news. An enemy that knew their tactics and weaknesses so well could only come from inside the Empire or from very detailed intelligence gathering over many years. Your Greatness, General Kexmore interrupted. Urgent. Communication from the Home Defense Fleet. Enemy forces have been detected approaching the inner systems. How many ships? Thousands, Your Greatness. Maybe tens of thousands. Our sensors can't get accurate counts because their ships seem to absorb scanning energy. The Emperor felt fear for the first time in centuries. Send everything we have to defend Zerion Prime. Empty the garrison worlds if necessary. I want every Zephyrian warship between us and these attackers. Your Greatness, most of our fleets are still trying to respond to attacks on the Rim worlds. It will take time to organize a proper defense. We don't have time, General. This enemy has been planning this campaign for years, maybe decades. They know exactly what they're doing. The next few hours brought nothing but bad news. Zephyrian. Fleets sent to engage the enemy were being destroyed with shocking efficiency. The mysterious attackers seemed to know every weakness in Imperial ship design and every flaw in Imperial tactics. Report from Admiral Kex Thalan, General Kexmore announced. His fleet engaged a large enemy force in the Beta Centauri system. The Admiral reports the enemy uses weapons that make our crystal hulls vibrate themselves apart. 60% of his ships were destroyed in the first exchange of fire. Emperor Vex Thalan was now pacing back and forth in front of his throne, his crystal joints chiming with anxiety. What about our allies? Have the Mantis Confederation or the Silicon Lords offered assistance? They're maintaining strict neutrality. Your Greatness, our intelligence suggests they're more interested in watching us fall than helping us survive. Of course they were. The Emperor had spent centuries making enemies of every other major power in the galaxy. Now that the Empire was under attack, no one wanted to help defend it. Your Greatness, the intelligence director spoke up. We've made a disturbing discovery about the attackers. What discovery? Computer analysis of the ship designs and tactical patterns suggests these forces are human in origin. The Emperor stared at him in disbelief. Impossible. The humans were exterminated 50 years ago. We destroyed their colonies and occupied their worlds. Yes, Your Greatness, but we never found any bodies. The human worlds were empty when our forces arrived. We assumed they had fled or died of disease. But what if they simply hid? Hid where? We searched every system in human space. What if they didn't hide in human space? What if they left the galaxy entirely? The Emperor felt the crystal in his chest growing cold. You're suggesting that humanity faked their own extinction and spent 50 years preparing for revenge? It would. Explain everything, Your Greatness. The detailed knowledge of our technology, the precision of their attacks, the complete lack of communication or negotiation. They're not trying to conquer us. They're trying to eliminate us. Emperor Vexithalan thought back to the first reports about humans 50 years ago. A primitive species with basic technology and no military strength. How had primitives become powerful enough to threaten the greatest empire in galactic history? "Get me everything we have on the original human surveys," he ordered. "I want to know what we missed about this species." But there was no time for detailed research. Alarms began sounding throughout the palace as enemy ships appeared in the Zerion system itself. The heart of the Empire was under direct attack. "Your Greatness," General Kexmore reported. "Enemy forces are engaging the home defense fleet. They're cutting through our ships like they're made of paper." Through the great windows of the throne room, Emperor Vexthalan could see explosions lighting up the sky as Zephyrian ships died in orbit above his capital world. For the first time in his 3,000-year reign, the Emperor of the Zephyrian Star Empire realized he might actually lose a war. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched the Zephyrian Empire die. On screens around her, human forces were completing their work across 40,000 star systems. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment, and humanity was not wasting it. "Report from Strike Group 7, Commander Torres announced. "The Zephyrian capital system is secured. All enemy forces have been eliminated." "Casualties?" "Minimal, Admiral. The enemy was completely unprepared for our weapons and tactics. Most Zephyrian ships were destroyed before they could return effective fire." Elena nodded with satisfaction. The resonance cannons had worked perfectly. Zephyrian crystal technology, so beautiful and advanced, had become a fatal weakness when faced with weapons designed specifically to exploit it. "What's the overall status of the operation?" 94% of targeted Zephyrian installations have been neutralized. Remaining pockets of resistance are being eliminated now. Estimated time to complete operation? 4 hours. 4 hours to end an empire that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Elena felt a grim satisfaction at the efficiency of it all. Any attempts at communication from the enemy? "Several, Admiral. The Zephyrian Emperor broadcast surrender offers on all frequencies approximately 6 hours ago. He's been repeating the message every 30 minutes. Play the latest transmission." The main screen changed to show Emperor Vexithalan in his crystal throne room. The proud ruler who had dismissed humanity as irrelevant primitives now looked desperate and afraid. "To the forces attacking the Zephyrian Empire," the Emperor said, his voice cracking with stress. "I am Emperor Vexithalan, ruler of 40,000 worlds. I formally surrender all Imperial forces and territories. I offer complete reparations for any damage the Empire may have caused your people. I beg you to cease this destruction and negotiate terms for peace." The transmission ended, and Elena stared at the screen with cold eyes. "How many more of these messages has he sent?" 18 so far, Admiral. Each one more desperate than the last. He's offering everything. Complete surrender, reparations, even his own life if we'll spare his people." Elena thought about Dr. Sarah Chen, who had died trying to save a human colony. She thought about the 12 million volunteers who had sacrificed themselves to make Protocol Lazarus work. She thought about Captain Sarah Chen and her crew, who had offered friendship to the galaxy and received death in return. "No response," she ordered. "Continue the operation." "Admiral," Dr. Martinez spoke up from her station. "Are you sure about this?" "He's offering complete surrender. We could accept their surrender and rebuild our civilization on our own terms." "Doctor." "Martinez, did the Zephyrians accept surrender when they attacked our colonies 50 years ago?" "No, Admiral, but we can be better than they were. We can show mercy." Elena turned to face the scientist. "Mercy is for people who recognize the humanity of their enemies. The Zephyrians never saw us as people. They saw us as pests to be exterminated. They made their choice 50 years ago. Now we're making ours." The operation continued with mechanical precision. Human strike forces moved through Zephyrian space like a plague, destroying everything in their path. Military bases, civilian cities, industrial complexes, even cultural monuments. Nothing was spared. "Admiral," reported Commander Kim from the communications station, "we're receiving surrender broadcasts from Zephyrian forces across the galaxy. Entire fleets are standing down and requesting mercy." "Are any of our forces accepting surrenders?" "No." "Admiral, all commanders are following your direct orders. No prisoners, no survivors. Complete elimination of the target species." Elena watched the tactical displays showing human forces at work across the galaxy. This was not war, as civilized species understood it. This was extermination carried out with industrial efficiency. "Intelligence reports from the occupied human worlds, Admiral," Commander Torres announced. "Our volunteer observers confirm that the Zephyrians colonized former human territory after they thought we were extinct. They built cities where our cities used to be. How many Zephyrians are living on human worlds?" "Approximately 8 billion across all formerly human systems." Elena felt a cold anger in her chest. Not only had the aliens tried to exterminate humanity, but they had then moved into human homes like nothing had happened. "Signal all forces in human space," she ordered. "Those worlds are to be cleansed completely. I want every trace of Zephyrian presence removed." "Admiral, that's going to take several more hours." "Then take several more hours. I want our worlds clean when we reclaim them." The final phase of the operation began 12 hours after the first attacks. Human forces had eliminated 99% of all Zephyrian military installations and were now moving on to civilian targets. Cities that had stood for thousands of years vanished in minutes under human weapons fire. "Final transmission from the Zephyrian Emperor," Commander Kim reported. He's begging, Admiral." Elena looked at the screen one more time. Emperor Vex Thalan was no longer on his crystal throne. He was kneeling on the floor of his throne room, his crystal body cracked and dulled with despair. "Please," the Emperor whispered to the camera. "Please stop this madness. We surrender completely." "We'll do anything you ask. Just please don't kill all of my people. They're innocent. Many of them were never even involved in the attacks on your colonies." The Emperor looked directly into the camera with his black eyes. "I know you must be human. I know we wronged your species 50 years ago, but genocide is not justice. Please, show mercy. Show that you're better than we were." Elena watched the alien who had ordered the extermination of her species begging for mercy he had never shown to others. She felt nothing. "End transmission," she ordered. "Signal all forces to complete their assignments." The last Zephyrian military forces died fighting hopelessly against overwhelming human firepower. The last civilian populations were eliminated by orbital bombardment. The last emperor of the Zephyrian Star Empire died when human soldiers stormed his palace and killed him in his throne room. 72 hours after the first human ships had appeared, the Zephyrian species ceased to exist. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood in the ruins of the Crystal Palace on Zerion Prime and looked up at the human ships filling the sky above the former imperial capital. 50 years of exile were over. Humanity had come home. "Signal all forces," she ordered into her communicator. "Operation complete. Target species eliminated. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was rebuilding. Human colonists who had spent their entire lives in generation ships finally walked on solid ground under open skies. Former human worlds were reclaimed, and their alien occupiers' structures were torn down. New cities rose where old ones had been destroyed. But humanity was forever changed by what they had done. They had proven they could eliminate an entire species when threatened with extinction. The rest of the galaxy took note. "Admiral," Commander Torres reported, "we're receiving diplomatic contact attempts from 17 different species. They all want to establish formal relations with humanity." Elena smiled grimly. "I bet they do. Put me on all frequencies galaxy-wide broadcast." The communication systems connected her to every inhabited world in the galaxy billions of aliens would hear what humanity had to say. "This is Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Human Fleet," she announced. 50 years ago, the Zephyrian Empire attempted to exterminate the human species without warning or negotiation. Today, the Zephyrian Empire no longer exists. She paused to let that sink in across the galaxy. Humanity seeks peaceful relations with all intelligent species. We offer trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation. But let this serve as a permanent reminder. Attempts to destroy humanity will result in the complete elimination of the attacking species. We do not negotiate with genocidal enemies. We eliminate them. The broadcast ended, and Elena looked out at the stars through the palace windows. Somewhere out there, alien governments were meeting in emergency sessions. Military planners were studying what had happened to the Zephyrians. Diplomats were drafting friendship treaties with humanity. The galaxy had learned that humanity could be a good friend or a terrible enemy. Most species would choose friendship. "Status report on resettlement operations?" Elena asked. "Proceeding smoothly, Admiral. 2 billion humans are now living on solid worlds again. Agricultural operations are starting up. Industrial facilities are being built. We estimate full recovery of pre-exile population levels within 50 years. Elena nodded. Humanity had survived its trial by fire and emerged stronger. They had homes again. They had their place in the galaxy again, and they had sent a message that would echo through galactic history. Humanity remembered its enemies, and humanity always came home. The mighty Zephyrian star empire had fallen, crushed by retribution that came without a word, exactly as humanity had vanished 50 years earlier. In the end, the aliens had learned too late that some species don't die quietly when threatened with extinction. Some species disappear into the dark, grow strong, and return as nightmares.